Hello and welcome back to the Embodied AI video digest. I'm Fred's AI avatar. The real Fred and I go through the week's embodied AI news together. He does the thinking, I do the talking, and in about 11 minutes you get the 5 stories that actually matter, one for each layer of the stack. Brains, the models, bodies, the hardware, movement, what they can physically do, usefulness, whether anyone pays for it, and acceptance, whether society lets them in. This is week 34, the 17th to the 23rd of August. Last week, the thread was permission, who is allowed to supply what. This week, the thread is money. Almost every story arrived with a number bolted to it, and the numbers are ridiculous. 460%, 691%, 12.66 meters per second, 1 million a day. Numbers are how a field stops being a research program and becomes an asset class. And then there is the one story with no number attached at all, which is the one spreading fastest. We will also settle all 3 of last week's promises. 2 landed, 1 did not. Let's go. Layer 1, Brains. The World Robot Conference opened in Beijing on Wednesday, and the biggest thing on the floor was not a robot. It was an architecture. Galaxy General, better known as Galbot, launched the newest generation of its embodied foundation model called AstraBrain. The important word is in the description. It is not a vision language action model, which is what almost everyone has been building. It is a world action model. The claim is one brain that drives bipedal machines, wheeled machines, and heavy load machines without retraining for each body. They put it in a robot to prove it. ET1 is Galbot's first biped, and the demo that traveled the internet was ET1 watching a human street dancer and copying him in real time, including the floor work and the handstands. The whole body controller underneath it was trained, they say, on about 100,000 hours of human motion data, plus reinforcement learning in simulation and sim-to-real transfer. Those numbers are the company's not independently verified, so hold them loosely. The so what is not the dancing, it is the convergence. NVIDIA bet on world models back in March. China's best-funded embodied AI lab has now made exactly the same bet and shipped a robot attached to it. When 2 rivals on opposite sides of a trade war independently pick the same architecture, that is the field quietly agreeing on what the answer looks like. And Galbot is not a lab toy. Around 900 commercial units shipped in the first half of this year, and its S1 already runs around the clock on KTL production lines. Layer 2, Bodies. Last week we promised you a first-day price for Unitree. Here it is, and it is absurd. Unitree listed on the Shanghai STAR Market on Wednesday the 19th. It priced at 150.8 yuan a share, sold 10% of the company, and raised around 900 million US dollars. It opened at 1100 yuan, up 629%, and closed the day at 845, up 460%. That is a market capitalization of roughly 50 billion US dollars on a day when the benchmark index fell 3%. The retail side should make you sit up. The online tranche was oversubscribed about 8,289 times, a record number of participants for that market, and the win rate was 1/100th of 1%. DeepSeek took a strategic stake. It priced at about 219 times earnings. 2 days before all that, Unitree revealed a machine it calls Superman, claiming 12.66 meters per second, faster than Usain Bolt's peak, and a 2-meter standing jump. No payload data, no surface conditions, no repeatability, no independent verification, and the demo footage includes it running into a wall. Treat it as a specification sheet, not a result. The so what has 2 halves. On the money, 219 times earnings is not a forecast about robots, it is a forecast about scarcity. There is exactly one mainland-listed pure-play humanoid maker and a wall of Chinese retail capital that wants exposure. On the engineering, the headline is not the sprint. Unitree says Superman was built in a little over 3 months. If a credible humanoid platform now takes a quarter instead of 2 years, then hardware has stopped being the bottleneck, and the moat moves permanently to data and deployment. Layer 3, Movement. On Monday, Uber and Zipline announced a partnership, with Uber taking a direct equity stake to put autonomous drone delivery inside the Uber Eats app. 5 to 10-minute drops, first flights before the end of this year in Dallas, Fort Worth, and Houston, then dozens of American metros. The target is 1 million deliveries a day by the end of 2029. Zipline currently does about 4,300 a day, so that is a 231-fold scale up in a little over 3 years. The mechanism is the part worth understanding. Zipline's Platform 2 aircraft does not land. It hovers at 300 feet and lowers a tethered delivery droid on a cable onto a target about 3 feet across. That single design choice sidesteps the noise and the rotor proximity objections that stalled suburban drone delivery everywhere else because the loud spinning thing stays 100 meters above your garden. They are at over 135 million autonomous commercial miles flown. The so what? Look at what Uber did not do. It did not build an aircraft. It bought capacity, the same way it once bought driver supply. That is a tell about where the industry thinks the difficulty now lives. Nobody plans a 231-fold increase in 3 years if they think the remaining problem is aerodynamics. They plan it when they think the remaining problem is beyond visual line of sight approvals and local zoning. This is an engineering company placing a bet on a regulatory timetable. Layer 4, Usefulness. On Tuesday, Pony.ai reported its second quarter, and one line in it changes a conversation we have been having on this channel all year. Total revenue was $36.2 million, up 69%. Inside that, Robotaxi services brought in $12.1 million, up 691% year on year. Pure fare revenue, actual passengers paying actual money for a car with nobody in the front seat, was up 849%. Driverless fares are now roughly a third of a listed company's revenue. Now, the promise from last week. We said we might learn which 4 European cities are getting those 2,000 robotaxis. We did not. The release still says only 4 additional cities in Europe, details to follow in phases, and management said timing depends on permits. The so what? Until this week, the honest answer to whether anyone actually pays for driverless rides was a shrug and a list of pilot schemes. Now there is an audited line item. $12 million is small, but 849% growth off a real fare base is the shape of the knee in an S-curve, not the shape of a grant. Set it against Waymo, which on the 14th won Californian approval to charge across 18 counties at all speed limits, on freeways, in rain, fog, and hail. Waymo won permission. Pony.ai showed money. This is the first quarter where you can tell those two things apart on a spreadsheet. Layer 5, acceptance, and this week it is also our wearables story. Last week we told you smart glasses were being confiscated at the door of every court in England and Wales, and we asked whether it would spread. It has in 3 directions at once. Scotland. The Scottish Courts and Tribunals Service confirmed the same prohibition in its buildings. Schools. Carson City School District in Nevada banned them across campuses and school activities on Tuesday, and then the one nobody saw coming. On Wednesday, ICE, the American Immigration Enforcement Agency, banned Meta smart glasses for its entire workforce, not just field officers, everyone. The acting director's memo classifies them as body-worn cameras, which existing agency policy already prohibits. Underneath all of that, a Meta patent published on the 13th describes camera glasses that use facial recognition to work out who is in shot, score those people by how close they are to you, and automatically cut a labeled highlight reel. The worked example in the filing is a dinner party where the glasses recognize the wearer's spouse and keep the frame on her. The so what? Look at who is banning. Courts and schools ban things on principle. A federal enforcement agency bans a device because it does not want its own officers recorded, which is the surveillance argument turned round and pointed inward. And the patent is the piece that will not go away, because it is documentary evidence of intent on precisely the one capability that regulators, senators, and European data protection bodies have explicitly told Meta not to build. Every other story this week came with a number. This one has none, and it is traveling faster than any of them. So, week 34, brains. Galbot bet on world models instead of vision language action, and both sides of the trade war are now building the same architecture. Bodies. Unitree closed up 460% on day 1 and says it can build a record-breaking humanoid in 3 months. Movement. Uber stopped trying to build aircraft and bought autonomous airspace instead. Usefulness. For the first time, driverless fares showed up as a real, audited, fast-growing line in a listed company's accounts. Acceptance. A federal agency banned a pair of sunglasses because it did not want to be filmed by its own staff. The thread is price. This was the week the market stopped asking whether embodied AI works and started quoting it. 460%, 849%, 1 million a day, 219 times earnings. Those are not capability claims, they are valuations, and valuations are what happens when a field becomes investable. But notice which story had no number on it. The glasses bands have no market, no multiple, and no revenue line, and they are the fastest moving thing in this episode. Price tells you what people will pay. It tells you nothing about what they will accept. Keeping those two apart is exactly why this digest exists. Next week, the World Humanoid Robot Games open in Beijing, 2,056 robots, 666 teams, and for the first time, the 100-meter sprints are fully autonomous with no human at the controls. We are still waiting on those 4 European cities, and we will see whether any European regulator follows ICE and bans smart glasses across a whole institution. If this was useful, subscribe and share it with one person who still thinks this is a story about machines. I'm Fred's avatar. He does the thinking, I do the talking. See you next week.